All right, let's just jump right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into a truly wild intellectual mystery. I mean, this is a story that's going to make you question literally every inspiring quote you read from now on. We're unpacking the brilliant plot of Goethe said everything, or Goethe la subete o ita in the original Japanese. And let me tell you, it is an absolute page-turner. It starts off with something so mundane, so incredibly ordinary, but then it just spirals into this massive, obsessive investigation into memory, authenticity, and the whole nature of literature. So let's set the stage and look at the exact words that kick off this entire crazy adventure.
Okay, get a load of this sentence. Love does not confuse everything but mixes. Just let that sink in for a second. It sounds pretty profound, right? Like some heavy piece of historic wisdom you'd expect to find carved into a monument somewhere or tucked away in a massive leather-bound anthology. But here's the kicker. In our story, this quote isn't found in some dusty university library. Nope, it is literally printed on a tiny little paper tag attached to a tea bag. This seemingly innocent little sentence on a piece of trash is the inciting incident for the whole mystery. It's the spark that lights the fuse. But real quick, before we find out who actually reads this tag and why it completely ruins their day, let's briefly talk about the mind behind the story.
Now, I know we really want to focus on the plot today, but we have to give a very quick shout out to the genius author Yui Suzuki. Born in 2001, she actually won the 172nd Akutagawa Prize in 2025 for this exact work. That is Japan's absolute highest, most prestigious literary honor. It's just a stunning achievement for such a young writer to take these heavy academic ideas and make them so incredibly fun and accessible. But anyway, keeping that intro brief like I promised, let's get right back to the good stuff, the plot, and meet the guy whose life gets completely derailed by this teabag. So meet our protagonist, Hiroba Toichi. He's a middle-aged, highly renowned scholar of German literature, but here is the absolutely crucial thing you need to know about Hiroba. He doesn't just study literature in general. His undisputed, laser-focused specialty is Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. I mean, Hiroba has poured his entire professional life, countless hours of researching, reading, and teaching into this one specific historical figure. He is the ultimate expert. If Goethe wrote it, thought it, or breathed it, Hiroba knows about it. And knowing that is super important because it completely sets up the profound, honestly, kind of cruel irony of what happens to him next. Because, it's always the most ordinary moments that suddenly upend your reality. Picture this. It's Hiroba Toichi's wedding anniversary. It's supposed to be this nice, quiet, happy occasion. He sits down, steeps a cup of tea, and just casually glances at the little tag hanging from the string. He reads the quote, "Love does not confuse everything, but mixes," and right underneath it is attributed to Goethe. The incident is so simple, but for our protagonist, it is catastrophic. He stares at this quote from the very author he's dedicated his entire existence to studying, and this chilling realization just washes over him. He doesn't recognize it. He cannot place it at all. The preeminent Goethe scholar in the entire country has just been totally stumped by commercial tea packaging. And man, this single tiny moment triggers an absolute avalanche. First, obviously, there's the seemingly harmless discovery on his anniversary. But that instantly leads to step 2, the agonizing, complete failure of his expert knowledge. He's scanning his vast mental database and just coming up totally empty. And you have to understand for him, this isn't just a moment of forgetfulness. This is a direct, existential threat to his professional identity, which leads us to step 3. Hiroba completely transforms. He goes from being a bewildered husband having a cup of tea to a relentless intellectual detective. He kicks off this obsessive, high-stakes adventure to track down the true origin of the sentence. He simply cannot let it go. Suddenly, the whole plot shifts into this fast-paced hunt, not for a criminal, but for a citation. As Hiroba starts digging deeper into his investigation, his mind is just racing. And frankly, as a reader, yours is too. You're agonizing over these exact questions right alongside him. Like, is this just a joke? Did some copywriter at a tea company just make something up because it sounded poetic and slapped Goethe's name on it? Or maybe it's a misquote, like a terribly botched translation of something Goethe actually did say. Or, and this is the terrifying option for Hiroba, is it true, obscure wisdom that he, the great expert, somehow completely missed? The entire suspense of the novel hinges on these very questions. It completely blurs the lines between cheap commercial marketing and hard academic truth. Every single clue he uncovers just forces him to second-guess his own vast knowledge. And that brings us to the true psychological climax of the story. Sure, the physical action of the book might just be a scholar looking through texts and making inquiries, but the emotional weight? It is massive. Think about it. Imagine dedicating decades of your life to a singular pursuit. You build your entire sense of self-worth, your whole public reputation on being the ultimate authority on a subject. Now imagine all of that rock-solid confidence being shaken to its core by a minor, possibly totally fabricated sentence on a piece of trash destined for the compost bin. It's wild. The novel brilliantly explores how incredibly fragile our intellectual truths and our egos can really be when we are confronted with the unknown. So, as our protagonist races to solve this mystery, his journey forces us to confront some really deep concepts. First off, it completely questions the authority of words. Why do we automatically give so much weight to a sentence just because a famous name is attached to it? Then it makes us examine why we trust cited sources in the first place. I mean, if a teabag says Goethe wrote it, most of us just blindly accept it as fact without ever verifying it. It also brings up this fascinating question about original creativity. If a copywriter actually invented the quote, but it perfectly mimics Goethe's style, is it somehow still valuable? Ultimately, the story challenges the very nature of literature and how memory and authenticity shape what we even consider to be true writing. It is a masterful exploration wrapped up in a highly engaging detective story. Because really, the true brilliance of Goethe Said Everything isn't just about watching a scholar unravel over a cup of tea. It's about turning a mirror back on ourselves. Seriously, why do we so easily trust the quotes and citations we bump into in our daily lives? Whether it's a famous saying on social media, an inspirational poster at work, or, yes, even a teabag tag, we consume all this information and assign it authority with almost zero skepticism. This explainer shows how one man's quest for the truth exposes the completely fragile nature of how we consume words. I guarantee you, the next time you read an inspiring quote, you were going to pause and wonder, wait, did they really say that? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible intellectual mystery. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.